The year was 186 before the Common Era. The wedding was flawless. Your daughter, just 16, moved with the quiet grace of a Roman noble, every inch the perfect bride. You watched her smile through the splendid banquet, a father proud of the impeccable match you'd secured. Your household, honored and influential, had done its duty. Then the music faded. She was guided away, not by her new husband, but by older women for the final rite, the one no one ever spoke of. She glanced back once, a silent question in her young eyes, a flicker of understanding that tore through your carefully constructed composure. You turned away, because you understood too. You knew what would occur, and you were utterly powerless to prevent it. This was the truth Rome buried so deep, scholars are only now unearthing the proof. This isn't legend whispered in shadows.
This is recorded practice, a stark convergence of faith, authority, and systematic cruelty that shatters our view of ancient Rome. Between 300 before the Common Era and 200 in the Common Era, Roman marriage law contained a silent clause, appearing in legal records but rarely clarified. Later medieval sources called it jus primae noctis. In Rome, it bore a different, more chilling name, datatus divororum, an offering to the gods. Imagine the silent histories, what powerful systems inflict upon the vulnerable. This story shines light on practices intentionally hidden for thousands of years. Let me tell you what Roman fathers never told their daughters. The first act of this ritual, the legal foundation. Roman law decreed that marriage shifted a woman from her father's authority to her husband's. This transfer was known as manus, but the legal texts disclosed something else, something sinister. Before this transfer could be finalized, before a woman could truly become a wife, she had to be purified. That was the term used in the legal codes, purificus, purified. Rome's foundational law, the Code of the 12 Tables, contained an explicit clause: no bride of a proper Roman household shall enter marriage without purification by the appointed guardians of divine will. Appointed guardians of divine will. That was their euphemism for the priests, specifically the sacred Bona Dea priests, a fertility cult entrenched at the very heart of Roman religious life. What makes this particularly disturbing is the transactional nature of Roman religion. You offered gifts to the gods granted favors, a simple exchange. Yet in the case of marriage, the offering was not wine, nor grain, nor slaughtered animals. The offering was the bride herself. Consider what that implies. You were 16, perhaps 17 years old. Your entire life had been a meticulous preparation for this day. You understood your duty, your place, the weight of your new status. But no one, absolutely no one, had explained this part. No one told you that before you belonged to your husband, you belonged to the gods. And the gods, they demanded proof. The second act of the ritual, the chamber below. Archaeological evidence from multiple sites across Rome reveals purpose-built chambers hidden beneath major temples. These were not burial crypts. They were not storage rooms. They were distinct spaces with specific, horrifying features. Stone beds, channels carved into the floors for liquid runoff, locking mechanisms on the doors designed to be secured from the outside. In 2003, excavations beneath the Temple of Bona Dea on the Aventine Hill unearthed one of these chambers, chillingly intact. Inside, scrawled upon the walls, were inscriptions, not prayers, not sacred texts, names, hundreds of names, all female, each with a date beside it. Dates that align precisely with recorded Roman wedding celebrations from the same periods. British archaeologist Catherine John spent 3 years documenting these inscriptions. Her 27-page report concluded, "These appear to be records of women who underwent some form of ritual in this space. The nature of the ritual is not explicitly stated." That, dear listener, is academic language for, "We know exactly what happened here, but we are unwilling to say it plainly." So, let me say it plainly. This was where priests asserted their right to consummate the marriage before the husband. The ritual unfolded like this. After the wedding ceremony, after the public celebrations concluded, the bride was escorted to the temple. Not by her husband. He was expressly forbidden. Instead, she was accompanied by female attendants, older women, women who had themselves endured the same ritual years ago. Your daughter is led downstairs, into the darkness.
The air is cold. The walls are rough stone. She is brought to a door, heavy and ominous. Inside waits a priest, or several priests. The fragmented sources do not entirely agree on the number. The few fragmentary descriptions we possess are unsettling. The playwright Plautus, writing in 205 before the Common Era, subtly references the practice in a comedy that was later severely censored. Only fragments remain. In one, a character states, "The gods receive their share before any man. That is the law. That has always been the law." Another character replies, "And the bride, what does she receive?" The first character's answer, chillingly, "The blessing of purification, if she survives it." That line, "if she survives it," was forcibly removed from later versions of the play. The philosopher Lucretius, writing in 50 before the Common Era, references the practice more directly in a passage medieval monks desperately attempted to erase from manuscripts.
We only possess it from a single, miraculous surviving copy discovered in 1417. He wrote, "The rituals of Bona are called sacred, but they are terror. What the priest claims to offer to gods, he takes for himself. And the law shields this theft with the word divine." Consider the insidious machinery of that system. You were a Roman father. You knew this ritual existed. You knew your daughter would endure it. But you could not refuse. Because it was not abuse. It was religion. It was not assault. It was purification. It was not a crime. It was divine law. The system had constructed perfect, unyielding insulation against any form of resistance. And so we arrive at the third act of this terrifying ritual, the silence protocol. Here is what made this practice so exceptionally difficult to document. Roman women who underwent this ritual were not merely discouraged from discussing it, they were legally barred. The Lex Fania, a law passed in 169 before the Common Era, included a stark provision concerning religious silence. Women who dared to reveal the mysteries of these sacred rites could be charged with impiety, a crime punishable by exile or even death. This is precisely why the historical record is so frustratingly fragmentary. The victims were legally silenced, the perpetrators cloaked their actions in the word sacred, and the only men who wrote history were either active participants in the system or direct beneficiaries of it. But here is what patriarchy, in its blindness, never fully comprehends about silencing victims. Silence is not the same as forgetting, and sometimes people discover profound ways to speak without ever uttering a single word. In the 1920s, archaeologists excavating a villa in Pompeii made a startling discovery.
They uncovered a room that had been intentionally sealed, not merely by volcanic ash, but walled off long before the eruption. Inside, a fresco. It depicted a wedding scene, standard Roman imagery at first glance, except for one chilling detail. In the background, barely noticeable, a woman was being led downward by robed figures. Her face was turned back, her hand reaching toward a man who was pointedly not following her. The archaeologist who found it noted that the technical skill of this image was extraordinary. The hidden woman's face, etched with a haunting mix of despair and urgency, was rendered with more care and detail than the central wedding couple. Someone, he realized, desperately wanted this remembered. They had concealed it in a sealed room, hoping it would endure. It did, for 2,000 years. Think about the person who painted that. They knew they could not speak about the ritual openly. That was forbidden, an act of fatal impiety. But they could paint it, hide it, and hope someone, someday, would see. That is not passive acceptance. That is testimony. That is the enduring voice of a survivor who understood the system would attempt to erase what occurred, but refused to let it fully succeed. Now, we turn to the fourth act of the ritual, the aftermath protocol. After the ordeal in the chamber, the bride was returned to the wedding celebration. Hours had passed, sometimes an entire day. Roman wedding customs included a strange detail that long confounded historians. The bride appeared before her new husband, wearing a veil, known as a flammeum. This veil was never removed during the wedding. Never. The husband consummated the marriage with his bride still veiled. For centuries, scholars believed this represented modesty, Roman virtue, proper conduct. Then, feminist historian Amy Richland meticulously examined medical texts from the period. The Roman physician Soranus, writing in the 2nd century of the Common Era, notes in a medical treatise that brides often showed signs of recent injury on their wedding night. He then advises, with chilling precision, the veil serves a double purpose. It preserves modesty, and it prevents the husband from observing evidence of the purification ritual, which might provoke improper questions. It prevents the husband from observing evidence. Read that again. The veil was not solely about modesty. It was a calculated device designed to conceal evidence of abuse, to prevent the husband from discovering that his bride had already been violated. The entire system was built to maintain this elaborate